Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service, jbiztechvalley.com, and columnist for the Jewish Press.
Right, so Rabbi Simon, today we have a special guest with us, the CEO of the Albany Chamber of Commerce, but it's the Capital Region Chamber of Commerce, because you've merged recently, relatively speaking.
Yes.
And you might even be in the transition. But anyway, so Mark Eagan, welcome to the Jewish View. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate being invited today.
All right, Chamber of Commerce, what's your purpose of, just our viewers? I mean, to make more business? Or?
Yeah, it's funny if you ask people, have you ever heard of a chamber before, almost everyone would say yes. But then if you said, tell me what it is, people wouldn't know as much about it.
That's why you're on the Jewish View
That's right,
over
to help spread the word. That we're a organization of the region's business community, both for-profit as well as not-for-profit businesses.
Right.
So some people think we're part of government, but we're actually a private, not-for-profit membership organization.
And the members pay the dues, and that's all.
Now, someone like myself who's a single sole proprietor, why would I want to join the chamber? Aside from health benefits, which then the costs are astronomical for a single person, what would be?
Well, yeah, maybe that goes a little bit to your question about your bigger question, and I maybe can loop to that. So really, what the chamber exists for? Why I often say, even though while we're a business-based organization, our goal really isn't just for business to do well. Really, the roots of why chambers got formed in the United States was really as problem-solving organizations to help communities realize the true economic potential. So our goal is everybody who lives and works here to have a better future. And most way that people have individual opportunities and prosperity, it all starts basically with a job. So we realize that business is the primary fuel for prosperity, for individuals and for a community. So that's the base. And then to your question, so there's the bigger mission, and surprisingly, the number of small businesses who believe in the bigger mission, that they realize that as they're tending their business, someone else has to look at the bigger issues that impact our community.
For example, if you see some land saying, hey, that'd be a great place for a mall, would that be up your line? I mean, are you innovative for the businesses?
Well, an example is it even relates, say, to retail. Usually, even any organization involved in economic development, retail sort of comes on its own. You usually don't go out and try to attract retail. But to your piece about trying to help, let's say if there was an abandoned prime site, whether it was in Delmar, where you are, or if it was in Albany, or if it was in Scotia, we might get involved because it's underdeveloped and we want to help revitalize that area. We might get involved. Because it's pulling all those players together. And then I think a little bit going back to your question.
The sole proprietorship.
The sole proprietor is, depending if they're if they're in the business to business space, they're going to sell products or services to other businesses. There's probably no stronger business network in the region than our organization. Okay. We have 2,800 members. Those businesses employ about 140,000 citizens of the capital region. So if you're looking to meet other business people, we're a good place to do that. If you're looking for professional development, we have a lot of low-cost and some no-cost seminars and workshops. And then the list goes on from there.
Because I often, there was a dear friend of mine, Al Fredette, who, this goes back 30 some odd years.
Yeah.
And I was just starting, and there were these mixers.
Yes.
Thursday nights maybe or something, there were these mixers. And he says, well, come to the mixers.
These were social, you said?
Yeah, but you should join the chamber. And I said, I'm a news reporter. I said, why, and I have my own business, but, why would I join the chamber? He says, because it's good for networking. He says, but I get my money from the radio stations that pay me for providing the service to them. What am I going to get from joining and being part of this? So he just says, well, just come. It's just good for you. Just listen to me. Here's the young kid, 20 years old. He's 60-something. And he just says, come.
Get some good advertisers maybe.
Well, I would need advertising because I was just selling individual news reports.
Yeah.
But
you're connected to the greater community.
Right. And now but in my 20s, I didn't realize what that meant. Now with my website, now I could use advertisers. Now I understand the value
Right.
for networking and building a relationship and building a friendship with people. So when you want to go to them and say, hey, look, I need some help, can you come on board? But you also, do you have something with SCORE? Do you develop anything with retired executives?
Yes, those who...
Because that helped me.
Good.
When I was in my 20s, in terms of getting the
Did you meet with them? You
experience.
might have even met with them at our office. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think I did.
Right,
Yeah.
which stands for Service Corps of Retired Executives. So it's businessmen and women who've retired that had a lot of good expertise, and now they're willing to help startups or new businesses help round out their skills. And then we also we do a program twice a year that we call the Entrepreneur Boot Camp. We run it each fall and each spring. It's 12 weeks long. It's two nights a week.
Well, that was new. That's
Yeah.
relatively new. That wasn't around 30 years ago.
It was not around 30
So-
years. It's only been around for about 20 years.
Oh, well, there you go. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
But it
there
really-
you go. Where was this publicized? I mean, I really didn't
Right.
know, but I could probably.
I just want to put in a commercial for the Jewish View, talking about going back one step about the senior citizens, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, because a lot of times in our society, fogey, no one needs you. You retire, go to Miami Beach and sit there and do nothing. That's kind of the, no one says those words, but that's kind of
Right.
the attitude. And our leader, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, always felt, no, on the contrary, these people have such experience and expertise, and you're just shushing them away. They could be such good mentors to the young people. So really hand in hand of what you're saying about just to push these people away, and they're incredible resources.
Exactly, most definitely. And also along the lines of that, when we're bouncing around to different areas of our organization, but, I've been in chamber work for a long time, 28 years, and that if I look through all those, in 3 different states and different kinds of economies and going through recessions, what's been the most common issue? And it's been talent. Keep people hiring good people, them retaining them developing them.
But you help doing that, though?
Well, yes, so I was going to say, so one of the pieces that we have that we formed probably about 11 years ago now is we have a sort of a subgroup within an organization that's geared just to young professionals, people that are 40 years old and younger. So if they're in the community and they're new and they need to meet other people, or even for their professional development, but then to your piece about people that are more, we call them seasoned,
Right.
we have a program every year, we call it an executive mentorship program. So from January until June, we'll pair up a young professional with a seasoned professional to really help them learn from each other. And I say from each other because oftentimes there could be something that young person's thinking of that could help the more senior person, but it's more geared to the other side.
Well, if you want someone to build a website, they got to be 15 or younger. That's it. So that's where a younger person can help an older person.
Right.
But even someone in their 50s could still learn from someone in their 70s.
Correct.
And the 70s is the 70 is the new 50. So why stop at 40? Why not allow someone who's in his 50s to gain some know-how, additional know-how from someone in
Well,
their
we could
older?
allow that in other places because we actually have what's called, we use the acronym YPM, but it's called Tech Valley Young Professionals Network. So it's a whole council geared to the younger demographic.
Okay.
And so to servicing their needs.
Right.
And I would say the average person that participates are probably in the late 20s to their early 30s.
they're just
And but we never card at the door. So if somebody
Okay.
like myself, who's in my 50s, wants to go, you can.
Okay.
But it's not, just like we have a women's business council.
Right.
It doesn't mean that men can't go. It's
Really?
just our primary focus
Yeah,
is women
women.
that are in business.
Because I'd love to see what the other side is doing. I love opposition research, Women's Business Council. I just want to know how they're making it. And then, aside from MWBE,
Right.
which is Minority Women-Owned Business Enterprises.
And to that point, again, the long list of resources that we have available to help people.
Yeah.
The person in our office who runs our Entrepreneur Boot Camp also helps anyone who wants to get certified. It's a lengthy process. And a lot of people can get intimidated by the whole application.
How much
So
does it cost?
I don't think it's very expensive. It's more the hoops.
Is it hundreds or thousands?
I think it's hundreds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. I named my business jbiztechvalley.com. because that was
Jay,
the,
Jewish. I mean,
right, but the Tech Valley part, because this region from Clinton County down to Orange County was allegedly the county executives or the county chambers of commerce from those counties, all signed on to this image and this view of Tech Valley.
Yes.
Then I came into the chamber office in Colony, and I didn't see anything labeling Tech Valley. So could you please just explain this transition and why Tech Valley's not really promoted as much? I mean,
Well-
here I named my business Tech
Yeah.
Valley. I mean, I don't want to have to rename it.
No, exactly. Well, it's a good point. And actually, the original sort of coining, the phrase Tech Valley, actually started with our chamber.
Right,
We
I
were
know,
actually
yeah.
the first organization, and it goes back to, as we were working in the community with businesses that are here, we saw more and more companies that were sort of in that innovation tech space that were under the radar. Instead, if we put a focused effort on saying that we're more than just state government jobs, could we continue to grow those sectors? I think it's safe to say, back when we did that, which is way back in 1998,
Way back.
which is a ways
Almost
back
20
from some of
years.
the technology, right?
It's 17 years ago.
That it was is before I moved to the community.
Yes.
People have told me that when we did it, a lot of people thought, what are they doing at the chamber? What is this whole Tech Valley thing? And I think it's safe to say it was fairly aspirational at that point. Then I think you could say that we were sort of an emerging technology sector.
Right.
Now we really are a recognized technology sector.
We are.
And if you even go to a global conference, we are on that map now. We've actually asked people, if you're at that conference, do people say Tech Valley there? The answer that we're told, and it's funny how here we're so parochial. So if someone said to you, are you from Albany? You might say, well, no, I'm from Del Mar. And what they said at that conference is, if you're in another country and they say Albany, they think of Fishkill as Albany.
Okay.
Or they think of Glens Falls as Albany.
Right.
So we're on that map. We still use Tech Valley. If you went to our website or you went to our letterhead on the stationery, it says right on it, we say at the center of New York's Tech Valley.
Okay.
If you heard me when I talked about our Young Professionals Network, it's the
Right.
Tech Valley Young
That's
Professionals. We use it in several places, but we also know the intent was never to wash ourselves of the capital region. It wasn't to replace one with the other, but as we're looking particularly to technology companies and to show we have a presence. So there's times when it's appropriate to use Tech Valley, there's times when it's
Right.
appropriate to use
Because
capital regions. So we haven't abandoned it by any means.
Your predecessor, Lynn Taylor,
Yes.
was the one who was the mastermind behind
Well,
this.
actually, before that, Wally Altus
Wally
was
Altus,
president
towards
at the
the
time.
end of his
Correct.
term, I guess.
Yes.
And Wally's still around, very active. But it was supposed to be a rebranding of what a chamber is. It was supposed to be, let's get away from that old stodgy business, suits and ties, because people in technology, they don't wear suits and ties. If you go into Albany Nanotech or you go up to Global Foundries, they're in golf shirts or khakis, and they're not that formal. Even Elaine Caballeros is not that formal. So
Certainly is not.
so I would say that maybe there was this initial thought to rebrand Tech Valley, chamber to be Tech Valley. Now you renamed, you combined with a couple of other chambers, or you're in that transition.
Yeah.
And why didn't you just call Tech Valley, the Tech Valley Chamber? Why Capital Region or something? I mean, Tech Valley Chamber. Maybe you could have gotten sort of something, everyone under one roof.
Well, it's a very good question. When the whole sort of movement of really trying to get people to buy into Tech Valley, because when it was first announced, as we talked about, while the chamber sort of created it, we never wanted to own it. We wanted the community to own it. We wanted businesses like yours to use it. So we actually formed what we called the Tech Valley Chamber Coalition.
Oh, okay.
And it started really with chambers that were really from the immediate area, really
Right.
from the immediate capital region. And everyone else wanted to join the bandwagon.
Right.
So as you said, we really went all the way up, really to Canada, down to Orange County.
Right.
We even had Southern Vermont and the Berkshires wanting to be part of it. And we said, well, no, it's New York's Tech Valley.
That's right.
So at that point, from the perspective of, say, our organization only looks at 4 counties.
Right.
We look at Albany, Schenectady, Rensselaer, and Saratoga counties. And because the moniker of Tech Valley goes broader, for us to say we're the Tech Valley Chamber, we would really never service that broader footprint.
Okay.
And I think that, if you can't go a day here, you can't watch the news, the term that's used the most to describe the 4 counties we're talking about is the capital region.
Yeah.
So we said for our organization, it makes sense for us to use that
Mirror
as the
that,
name.
yeah.
But again, at the same point, we use Tech Valley within certain segments.
Okay.
The other piece that, unfortunately, I think that the Chamber's hope way back was everyone was going to buy into Tech Valley, and you didn't have to be in the tech sector to feel like it was for you. And I think over time, a lot of people felt like Tech Valley was exclusionary. It wasn't as inclusionary. If your business didn't relate to technology, it didn't work for you. We don't believe that's the case, but if that's what perception is, but if someone
Perception
says
becomes reality.
right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so that I didn't mean to get all the
No,
details, but there's a lot of
I'm
dynamics.
fascinated by
but there's
it.
a lot of dynamics to it.
And I like those. I like hearing about those dynamics because it gives the viewers at least a sense of what goes on behind the scenes of how something gets developed into what we see publicly.
Right.
So that's why I'm very happy you answered it the way you did.
I wanted to ask a question. You've been here for a number of years, and
7 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
your anniversary.
Well, that's before. I don't know if Mark knows everything about the Capital District, nanotech, but how much influence has nanotech have on the overall? Obviously, it's there and it's creating a lot of jobs, but there's surely must be waves of, businesses that are connected. And number 2, you always hear, upstate the economy is no good, and how is it in the capital region? Are they an exception to maybe the other parts of upstate? Obviously, we are upstate, but
Right.
but maybe in our little cluster, like you say, a few counties, because of the state and nanotech, you would say we're doing all right.
It's a great question. If you are to look out really outside of the city, I think most people would tell you that are unbiased to look. The only other part of the state that really has much going on economically is our region. I think it's unfortunately Syracuse is continuing to struggle. Southern tier. Rochester when losing Kodak and Xerox
IBM.
and Bosch Shalom and
IBM.
IBM. Just the list goes on. Right now, after probably 10 decades of decline, there's some good things going on in Buffalo right now, but they have a long ways to go. So to your direct question as it relates to nanotech, and Albany Nano, the Nano College, now SUNY Polytechnic, all these names out there, there's no question that it has been a major driver. It enabled us to go from that sort of that aspirational to that recognized tech sector. But to me, the difference here, and I don't want to get too technical for listeners, but right now we've gone through a process. Governor Cuomo's had this competition for $500 million. It's called the Upstate Revitalization Initiative. So there's some other regions who will argue and say, well, state has already invested a lot of money in the Albany area. It should go somewhere else.
Yeah, but we've had the lowest amount of gimmies, I guess, from all the other regions. We've got something, but we were always like on the lowest rung.
Well, yeah, and Mark, and I think, and also to your point, that is actually back when the other Governor Cuomo was in office, he decided he was going to create these what they call centers of excellence at the research universities, which Buffalo is a research university, Binghamton is, Albany is, and Stony Brook. So there's 4 of them. Well, everyone had the same. Each got a center. The only center that ever took off was Albany. Mm-hmm. Ours was nanotechnology. The other investments that have been made at that campus, there was a significant incentive given to Global Foundries. But the private sector investment on top of that has been 5-fold. So to me, I don't think we should be penalized because of our success. We should be told, to me, we should be able to go to the state and say, to some of the other regions, you're making a contribution to them. With us, you're making an investment, and we're getting a return on that investment back to our citizens and to our taxpayers. So it's been a major driver. But I think overall, the old expression about a rising tide lifts all boats. I think overall our economy, it's been a slow getting out of this international recession. But I think most businesses and I think most people's standard of living today, people are doing okay.
I wanted to ask you about the merger, please,
Yes.
the transition. What's happening with the merger? Is it merged already? Is it happening?
It has
slowly?
Explain what the merger is.
Go ahead,
so
I'm
we can
asking him
review.
to
All right,
explain,
so
yeah.
explain again from
Yes.
square one.
Well, okay.
You're making a merger. I don't know who the two
Well, yes.
No,
Well,
that's what
it
I'm
goes
asking.
back to the issue that we're really one regional economy. In the root,
4 counties.
4 counties, and the roots of our organization, the former name of the organization that I originally came to work for was called the Albany Colony Regional Chamber. The reason those 2 names in it was years ago, Albany had its own chamber, Colony had its own chamber. They came together. And then that was back in the 80s. Then in the 90s, our board said, it's not like commerce stops at municipal boundaries. We need to really be twofold. We need to be the primary chamber in Albany County, but we really also have to think regionally. So it was the Albany Colony Regional Chamber. About 8 years ago,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
we began to do work, a lot of collaboration with the Chamber of Schenectady County. A lot of the councils, these programs we talked about, their members had access to it.
And that was Chuck Steiner heading that up.
Correct.
Okay.
And we kept looking to say, and they shared a very similar philosophy that we did about the whole issue about the region. Not just about Schenectady, but Schenectady's going to do better if the region does better and vice versa. So oftentimes it's easy for business people, other people to look and say, look, we have too many governments. They should consolidate. They should look at shared services. Look at all these nonprofits. They should do it. This is a case where I think the business community said, let us lead by example. If we believe that we're one regional economy, shouldn't we look to say, how do we represent ourselves that way? So what we actually did was the 2 chambers formed an umbrella. So from a legal perspective, we didn't merge.
You didn't?
The chambers still exist.
Uh-huh.
The members merged.
Right.
What happened was our members became members of the Capital Region Chamber. And the reason that nuance is important is we tried to create it not just for us, but for the region. So over time, if there's other chambers or other economic development organizations that want to integrate under a regional platform, that we've created it. But it really
you're
goes...
there, then you're available for them. So Bethlehem or Southern Saratoga or Saratoga Chamber, they want to come in, they can have
Correct.
that entree.
Exactly. We're not pushing anybody to come, but we want to be inclusive. We want to be inclusionary. If it makes sense and they want to affiliate, they can. So it goes back to the whole issue of, let's not just think and talk like a region, how do we act like a region?
But how does that work when you had 2 CEOs, you and Chuck Steiner, and someone had to give, and I read that Chuck's retiring in 2017.
Yes.
Was that in the, are you co-chairs or what are you,
No.
CEOs? Or?
No. Well, again, luckily, we think a lot alike, and we like each other, we trust each other, respect each other. So really, the volunteers said, you guys figure it out. Really, they did. And
duke it out.
They realized that if all of a sudden we looked to integrate and one of us were to leave right away, it was going to fall apart. Because that relationships matter. We talked about that before.
Yes.
And we got to make sure that people feel comfortable with it. And we don't just plan a new model, we implement the new model. And so right at the beginning, one of the meetings, Chuck said, I really think that you should be the CEO of this new organization.
Oh, he said that?
He said that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and so the way we have it is and titles aren't that important. We work together, but I'm CEO and Chuck is president.
Okay. And then when he retires, you're going to be president also?
Yes, yeah, we won't probably replace that position at
Okay.
that point. We'll have time to transition.
I won't apply then. It's okay. But that's, okay, so he's retiring in 2017. Now I got to ask you about this other PAC. The
Yes.
governor, is other elected officials bemoan, or good government groups bemoan the fact there are so many political action committees.
Yes.
Why did you start one then? I mean, you have entree into all of these committee meetings and and receptions anyway. Why do you have to have a political action committee?
Well, the one thing with our political action committee that's probably different than what a lot of people think of,
Which is why I'm asking.
right, is I think that a traditional political action committee does endorsements, and we actually do not do that.
Right.
It really goes to a little bit to your question. It was back in 2009 that our board said, you know, we really owe it to the community to be more involved in issues of public policy and government affairs. But I have to say, up until then, we were very much reactionary. We weren't proactive in that space. And again, it's timing of things. 2008 is when Senator Bruno stepped down.
Yes.
Many people felt like he was the main advocate for the region, and there was a void, and could the chamber help fill that void? And to your point, unfortunately, the way that the process works, you talked about all these receptions. Well, these receptions, you pay to go to those receptions.
Right. But you don't have to be a political action committee.
Well, the chamber, we can't use chamber membership money. There's thresholds that you can use.
Right.
So in order for us to have a designated fund, so if we're going to those events, we're paying for them through the political action committee.
Do you have any relationship with the State Business Council?
Yes.
So they're the lobbying arm for the business community.
Well, they're the lobbying arm on the macro level.
Yeah, well.
Because they're addressing,
But you're not
addressing-
exactly micro when you have 4 counties.
Well, no,
and
but I
you
guess
have-
I guess the difference would be, is that there would be some issues that maybe we're going to call it a business climate issue.
Yeah.
That we're going to be part of that same chorus, and they might be the lead singer in the chorus, and we're the backup. But then there's going to be other issues. I'll give a couple of examples. For your viewers who work-wise or otherwise are on the Northway. And right now at Exit 4, which is Albany Shaker and the airport, and there's been some construction with a new overpass. Really what we've been an advocate for particularly the last 3 years, we're just constant, is we want to have a direct access from there to the airport.
Exit 3.
Exit 3. Technically, it's Exit 4, because Exit 3 doesn't exist, and
Right.
they're not going to build an Exit 3.
Well, before you came, there was a sign up forever that said, Exit 3 to be built.
Right.
And everyone wanted to know where be built was.
Good one. But so DOT has basically told us Exit 3 will not be built.
Okay.
So we'll have but advocating for a reconstructed Exit 4
Okay.
with direct access. The Business Council or someone else is not going to advocate for that. That's a capital region issue.
Really? Okay.
So we're the advocate for something like
Okay.
that.
So let me ask you
Flights at the airport.
Yeah.
I've gone and met with Southwest. I've flown to Chicago at United headquarters to advocate on behalf of airport and flight service.
Okay, which
the
is-
Business Council is not going to do that.
And that comes out of the PAC money? when
No,
you
that
go
we don't need.
advocate?
We can use chamber resources for that.
Right.
It's when we're writing a check to a political campaign. That's when we use PAC money.
Okay, so let me ask you this in the few minutes we have left.
Yep.
I've been a big advocate of wanting to have a regional transportation system that would go up the middle of the Northway, let's say, that could connect Saratoga with Schenectady. It includes Clifton Park. It includes Troy. It would include Albany. You know, and you would have this sort of snake of a transportation system that would get people around. Not maybe a light rail system. You call it whatever you want.
Right.
But where's that going? And is it, you know, I mean, everyone says, oh, it's so much money, but if you get the federal government involved, and it's the Northway, so it's federal highway, then they pay 90% and the state would pay 10.
Yeah, I think realistically, I'll be shocked in our lifetimes if we ever see a light rail up the Northway. I think what might happen, the acronym is called BRT. It's called Bus Rapid Transit. And there's been a line connecting Albany and Schenectady that's been extremely successful.
But you know, the state spends so many billions of dollars on the 2nd Avenue subway. And when New York City wants something,
just like Tappan Z, look at all the
the
money that's going
Tappan
there.
Z, and look at the connector between JFK and LaGuardia. I mean,
I'm advocating for this exit off the Northway. It's $33 million for the state,
Which is nothing.
That's not a lot of money, but I haven't been successful yet. But when the chamber's not giving up,
But that's why when you talk about big projects and you talk about big innovative ideas, large innovative ideas, this is.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think what will happen, and this is what I would predict, is at some point that will be a BRT route, and if it's successful enough, then they can say, okay, do you look at a light rail? But the way that you would test it to say would it really work, That's what I think will lead to it. And by me saying I don't think it'll happen in our lifetime, it's not because I don't believe it would be good for the region. I just think realistically it probably is not going to happen because of the investment, because of what the population is. But
And we're not New York City.
and that's the challenge that we have. That the majority of the population is still in the boroughs and it's in Long Island. So when I was at the Legislative Office building today. I was part of it was a group that you might be heard promoted, where they had a meeting with, right, there was they invited, they did a press conference yesterday.
Yes.
Today they have 40 people invited to this roundtable discussion as they look to next year's legislative session about having ride share and car share options in New York. So there's certain issues, and we're always the minority because the Assembly and the Senate are controlled by the city. It definitely has its challenges
But
for us.
isn't this show it in a stark way? Doesn't this example of transportation show it like really emblazoned?
Well, it does. Look at even the issue, how often have you taken the train, from the Rensselaer train station down to the city?
No,
And
I rarely. I hate
probably
the
rarely
train.
because you don't know how long it's going to take. The issue of
drive.
reliability,
I
the length of
drive.
time, and that a number of years ago there was a real focused effort to say, could we really have more of a high-speed connection between Albany and New York City? And it
Right.
hasn't happened.
No, that-
so I think we just have to be realists.
Okay.
But I think it goes back to the first question. All the things that we work on don't just help business, they help our community,
Right.
which then helps all of our citizens, everyone who calls the Capital Region home.
Okay. Well,
Just
good
about
note to
time.
end on.
Mark, you're doing good work over here. Keep it up for
Thank you.
not only for the people, but for the entire probably state. It's they have a good, solid economy in Albany and the Capital District. Continue good work and do it with good health.
And much
Thank
success.
you.
Continue.
Thank you very much.